Go ahead. Make my day.
2, 1, 0.
Hello and welcome to Write and Writer, the official podcast of the Washington Free Beacon. I am your host, Elizabeth Harrington. You can follow me on Twitter at LizWFB. The Free Beacon podcast is available on iTunes and Google Play. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a review. Joining me from the right today is Free Beacon Editor-in-Chief and Inside the Beltway conservative Matthew Continetti. You might remember him from such mainstream media shows as The Daily Show and Fox News Sunday. You can follow him on Twitter at Continetti. Hello, Matt.
Hi, Liz.
Further to Matt's right is Free Beacon President and Macedonia Troll Farm operator Aaron Harrison. We're not exactly sure what he does around the office, but he signs the checks, and that's good enough for us. Hello, Harrison.
It's good enough for me, too.
We also welcome to the program today the chairman of the Washington Free Beacon, Michael Goldfarb, international man of mystery and licensed Republican consultant. He'll be keeping our panelists in line. Hello, Goldfarb.
Pleasure and an honor.
First up on Write and Writer, President Trump announced plans to impose tariffs on imports of steel and aluminum next week, leading to fears of a trade war. However, Trump says trade wars are good and easy to win. Matt, I have a feeling you disagree.
I do, on the economics. There's no real school of economics other than the mercantilists in the 16th and 17th century who think that trade wars are a good idea. On the other hand, it's not just economics. It's called political economy. And I do think what Trump has done is a political winner at probably economic cost that's being greatly exaggerated. You know, I went through kind of the history books, as I love to do. I have a headline here from May 1986, Reagan acts to restrict machine tool imports. And in that time, the Democratic Congress, was going heavily protectionist in order to basically blunt their protectionist measures. Reagan announced measures of his own. And about 16 years later, in 2002, another Republican president, George W. Bush, announced a 30% tariff on steel. Now, here's the thing. Economically, these tariffs don't work. But politically, in George Bush's case, remember he won re-election thanks to Ohio. In Reagan's case, certainly, they do work.
Harrison, do you bring on the trade war?
Well, look, when I first heard that we were going to be starting a trade war, I was immediately all in because I'm pro most wars. And if we do engage in a war, I want to win this fucking thing. So I'm pretty pumped about hearing that we're going to engage in a major league trade war. Now, that said, I, over the last 24 hours, have had a chance to digest this, and I have seen some criticism popping up on Twitter suggesting that perhaps the steel tariff in particular could actually raise the cost of manufacturing such necessities in life like AR-15s. And that personally has been, it's vexed me. I don't know where I'm going to be on this trade war if it involves raising the cost of to the consumer of AR-15s. And then I've also heard criticism over the aluminum tariff as well, that it's going to cost extra for beer. The beer manufacturers and producers and distributors are kind of off about this. So, when I'm cracking a Natty Light right after I shoot off about 700 rounds, out at the range, it's going to cost me more. And so I'm not sure that I'm down with this.
So you don't care about the effect on the global economy or on the steel industries or on the American job market.
Boring.
You just care about you.
No, this is the thing. Like, nobody actually knows how this works. Like, if you knew how this works, you'd be a billionaire right now, right? Like, this
like
is
Carl Icahn.
Pretty much.
I don't get the Carl Icahn. So the story came out that Icahn dumped a lot of steel stock prior to the announcement this week. But
you don't get that?
The steel prices went up. Steel stocks went up.
No. It was a company that used steel in the making of
the
construction
secondary
equipment.
supply. Right.
Yes.
So their costs will increase. That makes sense.
I'm worried this whole conversation is going to jeopardize our perfect 5-star rating because it is so boring. As a trade war, I prefer real wars. I mean, does anybody care about a trade war? I mean, I guess if you make steel, you're engrossed by this, but
they vote.
You're right. It's very boring, but if it affects our beer and guns, I think that's a problem. But next up,
Serious problem.
President Trump again let the cameras in for a bipartisan meeting on gun control this week, where he advocated taking the guns from the mentally ill first, due process second. But since he has tweeted that he had a good and great meeting with the NRA last night, Harrison, is he coming for your guns or what?
Look, I think this is a little bit of three-dimensional chess that's being played by the president here. First off, we all know that Donald Trump is, if anything, he is a promise keeper. He made a serious promise to the NRA at his speech last year where he said he will not let the NRA down. I'm an NRA member. I'm a proud NRA member. I think what he's doing here is actually creating a situation where the Democrats are going to expose themselves for the gun grabbers that they actually are. Look, one of their biggest goal going into the 2018 midterms, the Democrats, is to oppose everything that Donald Trump attaches his name to. If he puts his backing behind this, it kind of jams them up. Like, I don't think that they're going to want to go into the midterm elections with Donald Trump going hand in hand for these new gun control measures. I think he's actually using himself as a poison pill for any additional measures, and it's going to make them go even farther. Because if you put his name on a middle of the road solution, I think what they're going to say is it's not going far enough, and that's where I want the Democrats. I want the true colors of the Democrats out in the open.
And Matt?
I think he has no idea what he's doing. I don't think he has any idea what he's doing when it comes to guns, and I think it relates to our trade discussion because I don't think he really understands what he's doing on trade. Here's the thing. Just to go back to that extremely boring discussion, which I find kind of interesting. He ran on trade wars. He wanted trade wars. He has people like Pete Navarro in the White House, people like Robert Lighthizer as a U.S. trade representative who believe in protectionism. But how does he make the announcement? Randomly, in front of a meeting, he just announces the 25% and the 10%. There's no one out there with talking points. There are no surrogates. It's the same things with guns. You know, he says one thing, he supports Second Amendment rights. Then he gets into the room with the Democrats, and he starts telling Pat Toomey that Pat Toomey's afraid of the NRA. Pat Toomey is the author of Mansion Toomey, which the NRA hates. And by the way, he also didn't know what was in the Toomey legislation. It is kind of ad hoc the improvisation has helped him in the past, but you see in both the trade and gun discussions the real limits of it.
But Goldfarb, isn't this the art of the deal?
It's possible that Trump both has no idea what he's doing and at the same time has jammed up the Democrats with this thing, which I honestly believe. This is like an old issue, right? The no fly, no buy was essentially we're going to take the guns. We're gonna take away your Second Amendment rights, and then we'll deal with the due process later. That's been a Democratic position for 10 years. They beat the out of us in every election over it. I don't think it actually has ever amounted to much, but you're for guns for terrorists. And the Republican position has been, well, what do you want us to do? You can't just take away somebody's rights without some kind of adjudication. Trump just actually said, well, we're going to take away your rights and then we'll do the due process later. So he actually said what the Democratic position has been for a long time in a very clear way that I think totally undermines the Democrats' ability to carry that position going forward. He sort of exposed what underlies Democratic policy on this, which is we're going to take away a fundamental right and we'll deal with the due process later. And everybody saw it said so plainly, and it was like, oh, God, that's bad.
But, Mike, if that were true, why did he have to walk it back? Why did he have to have that emergency meeting last night with Chris Cox, and now everybody's friendly again over NRA and Second Amendment rights?
No. I mean, it was ridiculous, and it's terrible, but I think it's much harder now for Democrats to go out and say, yeah, we're going to take away that's the Trump position. Now we just say, oh, you want to do what Trump was saying? Like it's an authoritarian impulse on the left that Trump perfectly articulated.
Right. And it has the same effect as getting all of them to say, hey, we want to ban all semi-automatic guns now, which is crazy for Democrats to say, which is a lot of guns. Next up, Hope Hicks resigned from the White House this week after being the president's right-hand woman for 3 years. The media is claiming chaos with infighting between Javanka and General Kelly. The mooch is weighing in, knowing better than to take sides against the family. Matt, who will win this battle?
The only person who wins any of these battles is Donald Trump. I mean, he always comes out on top somehow. the infight. I mean, the media reaction to the traveling circus is so funny because they seem continually surprised about the infighting and backstabbing. The real aberration were those few months where it seemed like General Kelly had things under control. And it's clear that whatever control he had, maybe that was an illusion, but he certainly doesn't have it anymore.
Harrison, what do you make of Hope's exit?
Well, I for one, am personally very sad about this. Everybody that I've talked to in the White House has been a big fan of Hope, almost as big of a fan of hers as I am. Universally liked and admired for her grace and her management skills and her loyalty to the president. So I'm sad to see her go. I think that this might be an additional casualty of this open-ended, ridiculous Russia investigation. If you notice, it came the day after her testimony before the House Intelligence Committee.
Yes.
Look, it's going to get personally expensive for these folks, and I think that this is the type of thing that turns people away from government service.
But come on, she's only 29, and she's been there for 3 years, and it's not like she had to get interviewed by Mueller. It was just the House Committee.
No, look, I think she's got a very bright future. I mean, look, I don't want to short circuit our cultural segment here,
right?
But I mean, look,
Don't
if I'm
step
ABC,
on Natalie's toes.
If I'm ABC News or if I'm ABC Entertainment right now, I'm trying to get her to be the next Bachelorette.
She's never talked.
What do you mean?
She's never appeared.
Rarely do any of these bachelors or bachelorettes talk.
The more important question is: have you applied for her job yet?
Listen, I'm not going to go into certain aspects of whether I've been applying, whether I've been reaching out, or people whether they've been reaching out to me. It's not material right now. It's unbecoming. I'm not even going to get into that.
We'll see, as the president says. We'll see. We'll see.
I feel like that's something Mooch would say. Goldfarb, what are your thoughts on this big development?
I mean, she's very pretty. She's very pretty.
What more do you need to know?
Exactly. Up next, Ben Carson is under fire for ordering a $31,000 mahogany dining room set for his dining room at HUD. It appears his wife Candy was involved in the order that included two $1,000 dining armchairs from the David Phoenix collection and a Jefferson sideboard that cost $6,500. Matt, at least Candy Carson has good taste.
I want to see Ben Carson do the George Costanza defense. Get in front of the press and go, was that wrong? Is that something I shouldn't be doing? Because really, someone should have told me beforehand. The question is now, what are they going to do with the furniture? Well, I happen to have a single family home in McLean, Virginia that would be happy to take it in.
It's beautiful furniture, but he said he's trying to cancel it, but it's already been ordered, but it wasn't even going to be delivered till May or something. Harrison.
This whole thing is ridiculous. Yeah, let me tell you something. You know what the budget is for redecorating an office? It's $5,000. That is peanuts when you're talking about the federal government. Look, these secretaries, they need to present a position of strength. They need to show a little bit of prestige when you walk into these things. Most of these federal buildings, if anybody's ever walked into them, they're dungeonous. They're caverns. These things are 75 years old. They need updates. I think that the secretaries, maybe they don't need $1 million budget, but they need a little bit more than $5,000 to make these things look presentable.
$1 million budget for renovation?
No, I said maybe they don't need it. I said what I did say is they need more than $5,000, and I don't think that this is outrageous at all. I think this is just a cheap shot that's taken by the off Democrats that used to have these political jobs at the Department of Housing and Urban Development throughout the federal government that are out here trying to take cheap shots at our great HUD Secretary Ben Carson.
All of this came to light because there was a whistleblower who works in the office who
Here
said,
we go. Another disgruntled off member of the deep state.
But I'm a little skeptical of this woman because she said she had to have a bucket in her car each morning because she was going to throw up over this dining room set purchase.
Do the
taxpayers pay for the bucket? Maybe this scandal's only growing.
What was the story with Trump when he was running against Carson in Iowa that that Carson had tried to stab his mother or something. What was that story?
Yeah.
Oh, that
It's
was a
his
great
brother.
story.
His
Right?
brother
and
his
the mother. Or he took the belt to the mother, I think.
I just think
Well,
it's
the
a
belt buckle, I thought,
The
stopped
belt
the
buckle
knife.
stopped
The
the,
belt
knife.
buckle
And that was
Stop the knife.
where he realized that he had taken a wrong path in life.
Okay, so look at this trajectory.
It was like in Pulp Fiction.
This
where-
guy went from trying to stab his own mother
Right.
to being in trouble for a $31,000 dining set in the secretary's office. That is a wonderful story, only an American story.
Dream.
American Dream.
The American Dream. Before we jump into our culture topics, it's time to check in with our favorite pop culture expert and noted feminist, Natalie Johnson. Hello, Natalie.
Hello, Liz.
So first I wanted to talk to you about this Hope Hicks story because actually I found a piece in Vox, of all places, to be very compelling, a feminist take on Hope Hicks and the media coverage of her. And it asked, when does Hope Hicks get to be the wonderkind instead of a former model? Let's talk about this story because it's amazing. Because every single news article for color says Hope Hicks, the former model. None of them happen to say that she was a model when she was 10 years old to 16. It's not like she was a model 3 years ago. What's going on here, Natalie?
I have to agree with the Vox article. I do think that this is a sexist position to be taking. I mean, Hope Hicks, let's all say it. We all know she's drop dead gorgeous. She's beautiful. That is a very obvious feature
And
that
an
she does
unusual
have.
thing in Washington.
It
so
is
we'll
very,
give them that.
it is very unusual in Washington. So, the media really doesn't know what to do with themselves when they see a beautiful woman in the city. But I will say the first thing you hear about her in a lot of these descriptions is about her modeling career, which again spanned her tween years when she was 10 to 16 years old. This is not something that she carried through on as she became an adult.
Right. And you never heard this about, Ben Rhodes. He was no looker, but he was young and he was a wonder boy. And, he had the mind meld with President Obama and he did all these things. It's like Hope Hicks has been with him for 3 years, very close to him running things. She gets no credit for her actual work. And they say she has no experience. It's like, well, 3 years. She does have experience. Matt.
Can I just say Ben Rhodes could never sell clothes.
No, absolutely
Not
not.
a model.
I would not buy a thing from Ben Rhodes.
Yes, very true. But okay, so I want to get on to a more important subject,
Yes.
which is this growing feud between the stars of Sex and the City. Miranda, Cynthia Nixon, who plays Miranda, might be taking sides in this fight between SJP and Kim Cattrall. What's going on here, Natalie?
So Kim Cattrall had posted an Instagram saying that her brother had unexpectedly died. SJP, Sarah Jessica Parker, who we all remember as Carrie Bradshaw on Sex and the City, commented sending condolences. Kim Cattrall then, who played Samantha, my favorite, snapped back in a second Instagram telling her to stop exploiting her family's tragedy and, the worst female insult ever, you are not my friend.
It was huge, in huge font
Yes.
on the Instagram post. Shots fired.
Yes.
And all of this traces back also to Sex and the City 3, which was they were writing and it was supposed to be, but apparently Kim Cattrall was the one being a diva and wouldn't sign on. But she's saying Sarah Jessica Parker blamed her for that. So that's where all the bad blood starts. But my question is, why would they make a Sex and the City 3? We're kind of ageist here on the podcast. They're a little too old for that.
Yeah, I'm a huge Sex and the City fan. I recently rewatched all 6 seasons of it.
The seasons
No
are
shame.
great. The movies are terrible.
Yeah, the first movie was fine. The second movie was kind of a dud. And the third, I can't imagine, would be any better. But I have to say, in this situation, I am totally Team Kim Cattrall. I'm a huge Samantha fan. I think she's fabulous. Carrie Bradshaw was far too whiny for me. She was just so predictable, so boy crazy. Kim Cattrall, I loved her because as Samantha, she gave women the power to just be whoever they wanted to be and had no qualms about it. And it was great.
Yes.
Look, I think Natalie's right
Harrison.
on that. I got to jump in here because, look, I've been digging deep into the interwebs, so to speak. Crazy Days and Nights, one of my favorite blogs out there. They pretty much explained that this actually was on SJP. She was asking for a ton of money. And was trying to pass it off as you suggested on Kim Cattrall. Now, look, that said, I just want to put that out there as a point of fact. I'm thoroughly disgusted with the idea of any of these women having sex on camera anytime soon. It's over. Let it go. Let it go. Sex in the City, it's dead. We need like a new generation or something, but
Sadly,
nobody wants that.
Sadly, I think you're right about that, Harrison. Continetti.
No, it is funny though that every Hollywood property is getting rebooted.
Yeah.
Except for Sex in the City. And to your point, Harrison, you would just think they'd find another set of girls that would lure you into the box office.
Yeah, but you know what? Knowing Hollywood these days, they'd probably rejuvenate this series with a set of girls from the new Ghostbusters movie. And nobody wants to see that either.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, too, because everything's problematic now. You can't even watch Sex in the City without, the way they talk about gay people and they have, the flaming queen. It's like, no, that's too stereotypical. You can't joke about anything. Sex in the City from, episodes 12 years ago are already problematic.
Well, and they also have one episode where they discuss being bi, and you have, I believe it was Carrie Bradshaw explicitly
the Alanis Morissette, I think, was that
explicitly
episode.
say like there is no such thing as bi. You either like men or women. Which if that aired today, you would be nailed over that. She would have lost her career at that point, which is ridiculous. But they were very ahead of their times that entire show. And again, so is Samantha.
Team Kim Cattrall. Okay, thank you very much for this update, Natalie.
Of course. Thank you as always.
Now for a culture round of Right and Writer. There is fresh outrage at Barbra Streisand for cloning her dog not once, but twice. People are upset that our wealthy Hollywood elites would spend $50,000 a pop to clone rather than adopt. Harrison, whose side are you on this? And would you clone your beloved Pearl?
Listen, I'm going to stuff Pearl. Okay, Pearl. That's the way you do it. All right. That's it's called it's taxidermy.
Like Kendall.
It's kind of a lost art. But honestly, I think that cloning a dog, this is some Frankenstein. I don't think that this is what should be being done with our scientific capabilities in this country. Cloning is weird. It just shows you that I don't know. There's something about against natural selection when you start to engage with cloning.
Matt. You don't have a dog.
First of all, Barbra Streisand should not have access to technology as a rule, because you don't know what in her hands it could become a weapon of mass destruction or something. And she does not limit her access to these things. It's also just, may I say, remarkably stupid. If you clone the dog, it will look like your dog. It's not the same dog.
You could get
it's
the
not
same
going to have
breed.
a different personality. Right. Just
I'm
get
not
another
convinced.
dog.
I'm not convinced that's the case. I think this is...
It's kind of a nurture versus
I
nature.
think the dogs might end up killing her. What do you think, Goldfarb?
I don't. Harrison, I think, had the definitive take there. I don't know what I can add to that. I got to be honest, though. I'm not sure I could tell the difference between Bette Midler and Barbra Streisand.
Maybe they're clones.
Maybe. A shocking new poll revealed that Trump voters do not want to hear Hollywood's opinions. This came out just before the Oscars, which will be watched by exactly 0 Trump supporters this Sunday. Matt, you're an elitist. Will you be watching?
No, I'm the one elitist in America who probably doesn't. Actually, that's not fair. There's a division among elites here. There are plenty of elites who don't.
Maybe you just have highbrow taste.
I don't have. You know what I have? I have 2 small children, which means I don't go to the movies anymore, and so I haven't seen a single one of these movies being nominated. And who wants to listen to the sermons anyway? It's so annoying.
Hosted by our nation's conscience now, Jimmy Kimmel. Harrison, are you excited for his? I'm sure jokes against Trump.
Look, I used to be a big fan of Jimmy Kimmel. The Man Show is a classic. That got me through college. Him and Adam Carolla, it was a great show. It was completely politically incorrect. He's clearly lost all kind of sense of himself. I think he's kind of forgotten what made him famous to begin with, and he's really embraced the Hollywood culture. I think this is what happens when you dive in head first and you got to do a show every night and you're surrounded by a bunch of liberals. He's been poisoned. It's sad, and it's kind of pathetic. The guy's turned into kind of a low life.
Yeah. Goldfarb, thoughts on the Oscars in Hollywood?
I don't have any thoughts on the Oscars. I mean, I don't think about it, but I think it is interesting. The Adam Carolla, they sort of went separate ways, right? And Adam Carolla is basically kind of sort of a conservative.
Yeah, he's more of a libertarian, but
libertarian.
he's got some conservative sympathies.
But
he's been kind of a trailblazer in this huge podcasting industry that started. So, I mean, kind of an inspiration for what you're listening to right now.
Okay, but yes. But Carolla basically he's sort of fighting on some of these campus speech issues. He's doing some good work in the libertarian conservative space. And Kimmel's a superstar, and it just shows you what the incentives are in Hollywood. If you're a conservative, you got a podcast. If you're a flaming liberal, all due respect to podcasts. If you're a flaming liberal, you can the sun can rise and set on you.
Sadly true. Up next, first it was the chicken, and now it's the gravy. There's a gravy shortage at KFC. Harrison, is this a coincidence that the fast food chain's troubles began shortly after they started bucking gender norms by having Reba McEntire play Colonel Sanders?
I think it can't be discounted. Look, you have a cross-dressing colonel. That honestly, that doesn't fly in Kentucky in the late 70s and the 50s or whenever the hell they decided to create this company. Now, listen, KFC's got a proud tradition in this country. I honestly, up until I really got in deep to Popeyes. KFC was definitely my number one go-to for fast food chicken. I think the mashed potatoes and gravy are not they're in a league of their own. I think the biscuits also have not been rivaled by any of their competitors. So listen, I think KFC. I understand the demand.
Free Beacon Podcast is sponsored by.
Look, I understand the overwhelming demand for KFC. Overseas, but I do think that like a savvier business model should have been able to predict this.
Matt,
I've always been a Popeyes guy, so I really could care less. I could not care less what happens to KFC. Let it sink. Let Popeyes rise.
Yeah, Popeyes.
Oh, Team Popeyes.
Love that chicken. We love that chicken from Popeyes.
Look, I think Popeyes has a lot going for it. I think the chicken itself is outstanding. Red beans and rice is a unique menu offering that you don't see. You
don't see that anywhere.
No, and now look, but I think that when you're talking coleslaw, when you're talking gravy, when you're talking biscuits and mashed potatoes, KFC comes out on top.
So you just want to go to KFC for the sides. That's all you don't want the chicken. You don't want Reba.
Well, that's the latest problem is that these are happening at KFCs overseas. I would just like to add, they haven't had these shortages here UK. Domestically. So, listen, I think that they got some issues and they need to hammer it out. Maybe they do need Popeyes overseas. Maybe that's something that we need, a little economic competitiveness.
Yes. The tariff on imports of chicken or something. I don't know. We don't typically read the New York Times around here, so apologies for being a little late to this topic. But earlier this month, the Times declared war on yoga pants, claiming they're, quote, bad for women. We at the Free Beacon have long supported a woman's right to yoga pants, and it seems that American women have spoken because we have fresh data that shows for the first time U.S. imports of women's elastic knit pants have surpassed denim. Matt, aren't you glad the New York Times did not succeed in putting women back in sweatpants?
I mean, it just goes to show you that everything that can be wrong is eventually written in the pages of the New York Times. I mean, they always are wrong. Yoga pants, probably one of the greatest inventions of Western civilization, I think. And it was something we can all get behind. Right.
Harrison?
Look, big sweatpants guy here, okay?
For men.
Me.
Okay. No, right. He did not specify, by the way. He just said big sweatpants.
I think that like sweatpants, since I don't want to I don't want to reference another Seinfeld episode, but here we go. There was a sweatpants episode on Seinfeld, right? Isn't this one of Jerry's things? Or you're wearing sweatpants, you've given up on life? I don't think that's the case. Sweatpants are comfortable. They're multi-purpose. The pockets not great, admittedly, but honestly, like when you're walking around, when I'm walking Pearl out in the cold wind, like I did this morning, sweatpants, way to go. Now, when you talk about yoga pants, all right, listen, criticism of yoga pants, comes from a very unique set of females, wouldn't you say?
I think I know where you're going.
I'm not going to say it because I'm a guy, and all of a sudden, like, everybody's going to start accusing me of sexism. But I'm going to let the ladies
Which
just go
they've
ahead.
never done before.
I will point out the New York Times article written by a woman. The reason she wrote it was because she was that other chicks at the gym looked sexier than her.
And we can't have
She
that.
said, no, we don't need to look sexy at the gym, but we at the Free Beacon say, why not look sexy at the gym?
Well, we're
this
for
this
inequality in
classic.
general.
But this is
So
classic.
we want inequality of looks.
This is classic liberal fascism, to borrow a term from our friend Jonah Goldberg. All right, what do? If they can't compete, then nobody should be able to succeed on their own merits.
Everyone should look like a slob and sweaty and gross at the gym.
You actually make it's compelling. I'm going to go read this article now. I probably should have done it before the podcast, but it sounds really interesting. I do think there is a sort of national security component to this, which is that there is like a legitimate security threat here of the yoga pants and the distracted driving, distracted walking. I mean, there probably is a body count on yoga pants.
Well, traffic fatalities are up. We just learned this week. So you're looking at the yoga pants connection.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, I want the women to look beautiful, and I love yoga pants. I think it's great, but I don't want to die in a horrific accident.
Listen,
over
man,
it.
like,
So everybody in burqas or what?
Look, I don't want my yoga pants regulated. I don't want my firearms regulated. Okay, and so look, that is where it ends for me. This is a First Amendment issue with the
Maybe
yoga
it's just
pants.
a question of
Second Amendment
liability.
issue with the
Maybe
guns.
it's a liability issue.
That's for the insurance companies to decide.
Yes, it is. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today's edition of Right and Writer. I'd like to give a special thanks to our producer, Louis Bunch IV, and of course, our Free Beacon guests, Matthew Continetti, Aaron Harrison, Natalie Johnson, and Michael Goldfarb. Remember, find us on iTunes and Google Play. Just search for Free Beacon. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a review. Until next time.